I actually grew up out in the country, and thank heavens my dad, who was a very creative person, decided to move us to the coast because there'd be better schools for us. Art was my focus of life. There was a great art teacher in the neighborhood, and my parents, although they didn't have a ton of money, they really believed in giving classes of things you could do when you were an adult. So I took art classes from a lady down the street, my first encounter with a beatnik, a hippie type, and discovered that was what I had to do at 5th grade. I taught college, adults, but high school was my favorite. I just loved convincing them that you can go and do so many more things than your surrounding life is like. Loved teaching the art part. I felt like that was a good saving environment for them. Come in and I'll make sure you're successful. That was my goal. I wanted to teach them that it wasn't about if you make this great product, it was about how about just enjoying the moment. And I think every kid needs that. And I really think adults need it too, but they're harder. They want to produce masterpieces immediately. The kids just were happy to get to make things. It was just a nice environment. Yeah. Retirement's better, but I did enjoy it. Don't give up. Even when it gets tough and it gets tiring, it was just a metaphor for the way life is going to be. Why do I do these rabbits? How many times have I heard that? People, the first thing, when are you getting over the rabbits? Well, it's a good example of searching and my thinking process. I've gone through so much trying to figure out a way to speak to people through my art. I've done a lot of different series, and I was looking for something very common that people could recognize, but use it in an uncommon way. And I did this little sculpture. It was a rabbit on top of a rabbit, and I said, oh my gosh, that poor rabbit, he's just being used. And for good and bad, you know, he's got this rabbit kid on top of him. I said, he's being hitchhiked. And that's how it started. I said, I can paint that. They all are stories in themselves. And I like for people to think of their own stories. And sometimes they'll ask me my stories, and I could spin a good tale sometimes about what it's about. But I really like for people to have their own. Once they see that these rabbits are representative of people. And I didn't want it to be something common like people. I was really searching and looking for them. And I think the hares, the rabbits, have such a nice human form that it translates real well to stories. I had one pet rabbit in my life, and he didn't make it very long. So it wasn't that background, it's more the people background and using the rabbit as a person. It's a question I get asked all the time. I start the process of thinking, the painting part's easy. That just whips out. The thinking process of what I'm going to do is so hard. Everybody thinks all this just drips out your hand, but it doesn't. That's the hardest part, the thinking, what in the world, what's next? I wish people would come without a preconceived idea about the rabbits being what you see as a rabbit, but that there are stories behind each one. They borderline illustrations of life. And to ask questions so you can find out. Don't just say this, well, I know what I like and I like what I like. Go beyond that. Try to get into the artist's mind and see what they were thinking. And it'll open up. And I've had many people do that and they go, well, now I get it. And it's really a good feeling when they simply say, well, now I get it.